Starting lineup, uniforms, and apparel present the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast.
Hello once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here, the host of the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. We're all the way up to episode number 10. Yes, that's right. It's double digits, folks. Yeah, I know. I mean, you know what? It's funny. Every time I look, I'm just so overwhelmed by all the positive feedback from all the people that I've spoken to about this. It's just, I didn't know what to expect when I started this, and to know that it's going as well as I believe that it is. So far, it's been quite surprising to me, and I'm honestly very, very happy about the fact that it is going so well. One thing that I really did enjoy is this is bringing me giving me a closer bond to the league and the players and the people. I'm speaking to tons of different people about different things, not just about the league, but about hockey, about different things that they do, preparation. It's so interesting. And I think one of the things that I also find most enjoyable is just hearing the stories that these players have to tell, and what they've got to say about how great this league is and how cool it is to be a part of it. And, it just echoes everything that I've been trying to say to everybody that I've spoken to about this league. And every time I talk about it, it's about how great it is and how great it is to be a part of it and how much potential it has. And the sky's the limit on that. I really do believe it. The thing is that times are changing, not just with COVID. I mean, COVID aside, times are changing within the way the game works and the way the league should be able to run. This league, specifically the Senior AA Men's Hockey League, has a very old school following, and no question it needs to get with the times. I've said that a number of times to many different people, but I really do believe that it's something that will only help this league grow to that next step, to the next potential, to take on that next leap in terms of what it can be. Like, this league has been so blessed by its local following. It's been so blessed with the fact that locals have continually put their unwavered support on their teams that have been local to them. Milverton, Lucknow, Petrolia, Shallow Lake, Saugeen Shores. They've all been there so locally driven that they haven't wavered, and it's been fantastic. And I'm not saying that me as a individual doesn't appreciate the fact that they've been following this league as long as they have, because without them, the league doesn't run, no question about it in my mind. However, there is a younger generation that this league needs to adapt to, and part of that runs through the social media aspect of it. Part of it runs through the ability to have up-to-the-minute updates pertaining to the games in question. People need to know when the games are going to be, where the games are going to be, how much they're going to have to pay, who they're going to see. They got to know everything there is to know about this league that makes it great to get them to want to come and view these games in person. We want them at the games. We want them in the seats. We want them at the concessions. We want them at the bars. We want them to be able to drive and contribute to making this league better, to making this league great, to giving it the life that it needs to survive. Because without them, we're in trouble. There's no question about it, and I think a lot of people can echo that. But like I said, times are changing. Times have changed. It's a social media driven world we live in now, and that is where this league has to be great. Because Junior B does it, Junior C does it. There are tons of coverage everywhere and anywhere that you can find with those leagues in particular, and that's the model we want to try and go after here, and that's what we're trying to accomplish with this league, to make it so great that people who can't travel to Petrolia to watch their team play that night can at least know exactly what's going on with the team that they are so loyal to. That's just a little bit of spiel to get off my chest and to let you guys know about. So this is, like I said, episode number 10. I want to thank Mitch Scott of Starting Lineup, Uniform and Apparels. He's our presenting sponsor. We're thrilled to have him aboard because he is such an integral part of what we're doing here. So thank you again to Mitch for being a part. Like I said, episode number 10. Today's episode features two from the Clinton Radars. Hence why I'm wearing my Canada red. So I'm repping red for the Radars. There's no, they're totally planned. So, but yes, the Clinton Radars, the 4-time consecutive defending champions. The last 4 years running, they had a good chance at number 5 this year before the season, the playoffs were cut short because of COVID. So that streak lives on into whenever the next season will take place. So our guests on today's episode number 10 of the podcast are number 51, Brad Burton, and number 54, Nathan Ansell. Pleased to be joined at this time. Please welcome in my guests. They are from the Clinton Radars this past season. Defenseman Nathan Ansell, wearing number 54, and number 51, Brad Burton, spent this past season between Petrolia and Clinton. Welcome, guys, to the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, first question I've been asking everybody that's come onto the podcast. COVID hit everybody a little bit differently in terms of how they had to adjust with everything. I mean, you guys especially, you guys were, you're one of the first guests that I've talked to that were actually affected probably the most out of everybody in the league in general, because your guys' series was in the middle of it. You guys had just come off winning 3 in a row in 3 days on the weekend to take a commanding 3-1 series lead over Tillsonburg, and then the season was abruptly halted. We'll get to that in a minute, but how are you guys figuring life with the whole COVID thing now that there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel?
You can have this one, Nate, to start.
Yeah, so for me, I've been one of the fortunate ones. I've been working through the whole thing. So obviously it's something that's difficult for everyone, and everyone deals with it in a different way, but I've just been lucky to keep my job and keep going along.
Good. Brad?
Yeah, for me, pretty much shut us down right at the start. And then I had a hockey camp that was coming up over March break, missed out on running that. So that would have been a good week, but unfortunately everything shut down, and like you said, put an end to the season. So for work purposes, just I have a sick child at home, so we're being tentative with everything. So just kind of easing our way back in, probably a bit behind everybody else. So that's where we are.
Sure. No, I understand that. Hey, Brad,
Yep.
This is interesting because you're probably the first person that I've had on here that can speak to what the effects of having someone in the immediate relation be affected by COVID. What's that been like in the home life, and how have you found it?
It's stressful. Just the uncertainty is the biggest part. Like you don't want to believe that it's as big a deal as it is, but you can't run the risk that could put your child or wife or family, anybody, in jeopardy. So we've been really strict, and it's been kind of gradually just kind of taking it step by step, like getting out. We were homebound, like strict. So we've been getting out a bit more with the nicer weather, and I'd say it's definitely promising, but we don't want to rush into a lot of contact with outside people at this point.
No, I get that. I mean, I can't speak to what that's like personally. So, like I say, best, obviously just be safe, pal, and do everything you can just to make sure that everything is okay and that everybody's all right. So,
For sure.
So like I say, you guys, one of the primary people that were affected by this COVID and shutting down hockey, because you guys were right in the thick of it, going for that 5th consecutive championship. Nathan, you had a pretty good season there overall, regular season, at least 17 points in the games that you played. How tough was it for you personally getting the news that the season was going to be ended and that there was no chance of that 5th ring?
Yeah, you know what? It's always difficult because I've watched a few of these that you've done, and the guys all talk about the commitment, right? And all of us are all different ages, and some of us are a little older than others, Berts? So we got the kids, and we got the jobs, and we got all this stuff going on. So it's tough when you invest your time in a season, and it's hard to see the folks too that put so much effort in the organization throughout this whole process, and then just to have it stopped, right? Clinton's whole organization works so hard at day in and day out and volunteers so much time. And I think that's probably the toughest part to see is all those folks. And, you know, the fifth championship would have been nice, but it's also just nice to be at the rink with the guys. So,
Brad?
Yeah, same thing. Like, this was my second stint in the Clinton organization, and just like Nathan said, that just all the hard work to really put everything into place, and the fan support there is unreal. It's such a drawing point as to go there and just enjoy the atmosphere. Like Nathan said, we're a bit older than maybe some of our peers and have the family experience, so it's just nice to be able to include them into something that's so cherishable with enjoying our hockey. But
I can understand that. You guys can actually speak to this a little bit. Do you find there's any added pressure in playing in a top tier market in this league like Clinton?
Bert, you want to take that one first?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily any added pressure. You don't really focus on that stuff. I wouldn't say it's like NHL where you're playing in a Montreal or Toronto market where you have media hounding you and all these high expectations. I think, like, from a fan's perspective and the organization's perspective, they just really enjoy doing it, and they don't put any pressure on the players to achieve success. They just put all the pieces in place and give you a great atmosphere to work in, and they let you come to the rink and do what you do. So I wouldn't say there's any added pressure, and if there is, it's I wouldn't say that they really come hard at you for it. So that's my take on it.
No, I agree. I don't think there's any added pressure, but I think there is it's amazing when I first made the switch from Petrolia to Clinton. Petrolia was, we had so much fun, and you go to Clinton and it's the same thing, right? Like, the guys are happy. We're all just excited to be there, be in the room, making the jokes and having fun, and winning is a nice bonus to that.
Sure. No, I get that. You know, it's funny. One of the things that I hear most actually from most people that I speak to about this league in general is, how light and how loose and all that sort of thing that it is in terms of the team mentalities. Like, how important would you say that is to a team's success?
Yeah, I think it's huge, right? I think it was interesting this year with all the rule changes, and then we had a pretty heavy turnover in players. A few guys retired, other guys they had to kind of part ways with. That it was a pretty tight core group, and at the start of the year, I think we were all kind of feeling each other out. There's a few younger pieces that they brought in that were just feeling out the whole process. And as the year went on, we started to kind of gel, and you could see that right before playoffs, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, to jump in on that question, playing for, well, I started my WAA senior career in Lucknow, so I'm from Wingham, so that was just an easy little drive over there. Made sense. I had tons of friends that were playing on the team. That team went from being on the bottom end in the north to being competitive over my time there, like not with the Saugines or Auroras at that point, but just I think at each stage, and why you see 14 teams still around, and whether you're at the AA at the top battling for that, or you're in the single A and you're trying to have fun at each point, there's a different drawing point to why guys are showing up. And I think the base of it is it's fun to come out and play with your buddies, meet new people. I met Nate our first year in Petrolia, and we just kind of meshed really well together, and obviously still are in communication today. So I mean, whether you're first or 14th, there's a reason to come to the rink and play in a good league, and you can't get that while living your everyday life anywhere else. You can't do that in rec league. You couldn't do that if you played in semi-pro hockey. So it's a great balance of competitive and everyday living.
No, I hear you. No, I get that. I mean, you know, from having seen it firsthand, like the competitive drive is unmatched in terms of what you could get at this age, even, right? Like, you know, it's especially for guys that are just coming out of junior, they're looking to still play some high level competitive hockey. I think this is the perfect league for
Yeah, it's the league is gotten exponentially faster. I think this is my 6th year this year, and over the last 6 years, you can see every year the skills getting higher. There's less and less, fights and rough stuff. I guess it's a little bit softer now, but it's definitely a better league overall, year over year. You can see it with all the teams that come in, all the young guys that are coming from juniors. They're all coming. They're skilled, and the nice part is too is you go out there, and I often say to my friends that ask me why I'm still doing it. I say that I typically feel safer playing in this league than I would in men's league, to be honest with you. Guys are respectful. We all understand that we have jobs and families, but we also want to be competitive, which is nice.
I get that. Brad?
Yeah. To touch on that last part with the nature of the league, when you play in a rec league and you're just out there, you want to have fun, regardless whether it's this league or some rec league that you're going out for. But just you come to the rink and you expect that there's going to be contact, and
Right.
if you're out on the ice and somebody's taking it a bit too hard in a rec league, that's where you really get caught, and like you just don't have your awareness or your radar up in those situations, where if you're out on the ice and you're fully aware that if you're making a play that you could get your bell rung at any point, you're gonna be aware of that, not necessarily put yourself in that type of position.
Is it fair to say, guys, that having been, active in the league for some time now, the both of you, is it fair to say that there's a unidentified mutual respect among the players out there when it comes to safety and health and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a respect, I think, across the whole league, right? And I think it's pretty fun as you play a little longer. You get to meet a few guys on the ice, or you have a beer upstairs after, and you have that respect between each other. And then playoffs comes, and it's not like you lose respect, but you're definitely not going to ease up, I guess, as much as you would in the regular season.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, definitely.
sorry, Brad.
Oh, that's good.
But there is definitely still that active fear, though, of there. I mean, there has to be, in terms of, okay, we got to go out and play a game. We have to be competitive, but we also have to make sure that we're good to go for work on Monday morning.
Yeah, I'll just hop in from my own personal track record of injuries in the league, which my wife can attest to. But yeah, like even just earlier, game 2 of this year, I took a hit in the throat, and I mean, it could have been really severe. I was questioning whether I'd be returning at all after taking that hit. I mean, if it was a bit harder, it could have been very severe, but I mean, the risk factor is definitely there. Guys generally aren't going out there to do that, but I mean, you do have to be aware of the position that you're putting yourself into, and
That's why I stay out of the corners.
That's what I hear. Yeah, that's what I hear, Nate.
Yeah, it's confirmed.
Let's talk. I want to ask you guys, actually, for one question I did have from earlier that I want to ask you now is, not a lot of guys, or maybe this isn't exactly true, but maybe it is. Do you find it difficult, though, as even mid-season, like Brad, you did this year, you started in Petrolia, you go to Clinton mid-season. Do you find that to be difficult to do?
So that was actually, I did this in 2011, 2012 season.
Okay.
I'd say it was a different situation in both. So that year, it was kind of like just a light testing out feeling, but they really only had probably 3 lines that season. So that was like committed 3 lines. So it was easy to get into the rhythm that year. Moved up and played with Luke Vick. So anybody that knows Luke Vick would know that he's a phenomenal player. So it really worked out well that year versus this year. I just went in with the mindset after talking to Berg's head coach, Chad Haggett. I just want to come and work, earn whatever ice time I get. And I'm not there to knock anybody out of a position, but I just wanted the opportunity to come aboard and work towards winning a 5th championship in a row for the town of Clinton.
Right.
Yeah, my situation was a little different when I did the off-season transition, and obviously it's always difficult, right? When you've got pretty close friends on the team that you're leaving, you play 3 years there and build those relationships, and then you're hopping over to, I guess the year prior they lost in the finals to Clinton, so it's almost like the enemy, right? So
Yeah.
I was glad some of the guys were supportive and understood that the choices that I made, and I kind of ran with it.
Yeah, I'll just hop in quickly to touch on the teammate aspect of where you're leaving. It was definitely a tough conversation when I came and called Stubby out into the hall, and so Craig Prudhomme, and called him out in the hall and just kind of explained my situation. And I felt like heartbroken that I was leaving the team in Petrolia after being there for would have been 5.5 years. Like, great group of guys.
Right.
But for me personally, where I was in my playing career, it was definitely just, I wanted that at least one last opportunity to have a crack at the AA side. So
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that. I can understand what you mean by that. I want to ask you guys about one interesting thing that I really paid attention to this year, and that was your guys' battles with Seaforth. You guys are really close in proximity. No question it's a rivalry. I mean, it has to be. I mean, you have to see it plain as day. That first round series, I probably wanted to be at every game because I knew it was going to be electric. Can you guys talk about that matchup throughout the course of the season and how, I guess, entertaining and fun that must have been able to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's I can tell you from where Seaforth has come to where they are now is night and day, right? Being in that rivalry for the last 3 years is fun. They've improved immensely every year that they've been in the league. This year they had a heck of a team, and I can tell you that series was probably one of the more difficult series in all of hockey, not just senior hockey that I've personally been through. That thing was a war, and those guys are a good hockey team. So that was a lot of fun. The both arenas were packed. There was great atmospheres. And it's neat to have that rivalry for sure.
Yeah, it was an easy transition from Petrolia, because Petrolia, Seaforth, probably even when they were in Goderich still, but to more of an extent with Seaforth and what they've been able to build to this date. Just an easy transition to carry over that rivalry. So all the guys, you've been battling with them. They picked up some really good players this year. Like Nate said, you just show up to the building, whether it was Clinton, whether it was Seaforth, and the hockey atmosphere, the playoff atmosphere was alive and well in both of those arenas. And it was just a joy to be a part of that series.
No, I can only imagine. Trust me, like I said, I wanted to be there for every one of those matchups because I knew they were going to be entertaining. You spoke to something that was actually pretty interesting just now, and that was saying about the atmospheres in the building. How important is that as a player when you go into a building and there's a lot of people, the place is packed, you can feel the energy? How does that translate to how you play on the ice?
Significant. Yeah, it's a big drawing point. I love playing in front of a crowd. There's nothing better than people showing up and putting their support out there. You really want to deliver for them, and that's whether you're the home team or the road team. Like these fans come and support the league, and you want to deliver a great show for them. Like, ultimately, we always talk about entertainment value. And I think you've touched on it. The WOA for the dollar of a ticket to get into a WOA game is well worthwhile. So it's a great to be able to go out and perform in front of a full building. So it's fun.
Nate, could you speak to that?
Yeah, no, it's neat. You got places that obviously draw a little bit more than others, but it's so much fun. It gets the juices flowing, right? When you're doing this, you're doing it for the love of the game, and it makes you love the game a little bit more when you can go out on a Friday or a Saturday and have a few people cheering you on, or a few people, giving you their opinions on how you are as a hockey player, whether they're positive or negative. It always keeps it entertaining.
Nate, I gotta tell you, pal, having never met you until just now, you probably just got your biggest fan, man, because I've been trying to say that. I've been saying that to probably everybody that I've ever spoke to about this game, and that is it's the one league, it's probably the only league you'll ever see where guys play because they love the game. They play because of the town they represent. They don't play for any showmanship. They don't play for any they don't play for, material things. They play because they love the game, and they play because it means something to them. And what you just said really hit hard there. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to ask you guys, so about the season in general, can you guys pick out a moment in particular that was one of your fondest memories of this past season, despite how it ended?
Bert, you got one on the top of your head there?
I don't know. Maybe it was even leading into the playoffs, and you said, "Oh, I guess you're going to be my D partner." So I don't know if there's one particular thing. Just the transition over to Clinton, it was actually minor hockey night, so a really good crowd against a good team in Durham that came into town. And I just remember sitting on the bench and being like, no discredit to what we had in Petrolia, but it felt like I was finally back into a hockey game. Like, there's intensity in the game, and that, I guess if I had to pick one moment, that would probably be the one that stands out for me. As good as the playoff run was up to that point, just the transition and being able to be back with the Radars was memorable.
Right on. Nate, you got
I think mine honestly was so the start of the year. I always joke with my wife that I'm retiring every year, and she tells me to tell her that in September. So I sat out a bit at the start of the year trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I really did miss all the camaraderie. And so I think that first game back, we were playing, I think it was Tavistock, just walking in the rink, seeing all the staff and saying the hellos and going out there and being able to be on the bench with the guys and have some fun in those games and knowing that this is going to be something that I can be a part of for another year. As we talk, like, and Burton and I talk about all the time, it's a whole family event for us, right? Kids come. I have a daughter. She's 3.5. She's starting to figure it out. My wife comes. Like, my parents enjoy it. So it's just a lot of fun to be able to be out there and still do it. So it's really good.
Hey, would you say that it's fair? I think it's a fair question here. Would you say that when and if there is a next season, whenever that happens, who knows what it's going to look like, but is there unfinished business for the Clinton Radars?
Yeah. Sure. The season ended abruptly. There's definitely unfinished business. But would I say that's a huge driver? I don't know, honestly. I think you take every year as they come. This year was kind of unique. If they want, they're obviously going to build a team, but I don't know if it's I'd call it unfinished business, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say if there is any unfinished business, it would be that. And you talked about how the league is really kind of balanced off there, especially how tight it was at the top. And right. You talk about the top four, but Seaforth was right there with tied in points with, I think there was 3 teams tied for third in points,
right?
Whatever it was. But just the whole balance and all top 8 teams. You add in a Tavistock, Allure, I think might have been 10th. But if you swap some of those teams, I'd say like good series all throughout the AA side. And I'd say if there was any unfinished business, it would have been that Clinton's, with how parallel the league was and the rule changes, I'd say Clinton still wanted to prove that they were supreme. I'd say that would be the only thing that might stem from that. But
Well,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, like the way I'd word it, and as an avid wrestling fan, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So, and I just do that as a shameless thing for me, but whatever. No, I'm just saying, right? Like, think about it. Even the rule changes hindered you guys, no question about it. There was a lot of talk as to whether or not you guys would be able to handle it, and you still finished fourth. You still got by Seaforth, a very tough, probably the toughest first round opponent anyone could have drawn, and then you had Tilsonburg by a stranglehold, and then the season came to an end. So, kudos to you guys on what was an unbelievable season, honestly. I want to give some recognition to some of your fellow teammates. I want you guys to talk about Max Campbell, your leading scorer. How impressive was he to watch this year?
you start with that one, Nate.
Yeah. My little stall buddy there, Soupy. No, he's we played together at university as well. So I know when he came to the team for the first year there, we were all pretty excited, and I knew what to expect, but I don't think everyone else knew what to expect. So it was pretty neat to watch. And as he's gotten older and more involved in the league, he's gotten better every year, which is quite impressive because he is one heck of a hockey player. Let me tell you, he can basically take the game and do with what he wants. So it's pretty interesting to watch sometimes when he's flying around backwards at the top of the circles, making plays. So
Yeah, this is my first experience playing alongside him, obviously. So, I mean, you don't necessarily know guys ahead of time, but like you wouldn't. There's absolutely no ego. He's so down to earth and easy to talk to. We'd always kind of just be kind of huddled up in the corner, getting our long johns on and stretching out a bit before. Just real easy to talk to. His play on the ice, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, and he really threw us on his shoulders, and it was just unbelievable to watch.
All right, next one I got for you. That's just pretty good there. I agree. I mean, Max was impressive to watch at least the one time I got to see him play. What about Sean Consit? Talk about him.
you go first, Birds.
For sure. So being able to play against Const, I mean, the guy is just your prototypical power forward. Like, he is a force on the ice. I mean, with all the great players that have played for Clinton, I mean, he's got great numbers that go with it, but I think he might sometimes be overlooked, but he can really dominate a game when he gets going, and tough, strong guy, and another guy that's just fun to watch, because when he's determined and he wants to go somewhere, it's very hard to stop him from doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, no doubt. I get that. The last player that I want to give recognition to here is because, well, from a personal standpoint, I think he might be one of the top goalies in the entire league, and that's Greg Dodds. I mean, how impressive is Greg?
Yeah, Dodsey's good. He's I mean, he came from the minor leagues there where he was playing, and he played, I believe, at Western, and it's always nice having that calming factor in the back and there in net. So he's pretty vocal during the games, which makes it really fun. He's always got something to say when you're skating by, and he's always going out to play the puck, and that's a big help for guys like me that like to stay out of those corners. So I always hope to him to make that first outlet pass, and yeah, he's fun to play with for sure.
Yeah, from knowing him from when he was younger, even just growing up both in Wingham and kind of seeing him in like his midget days, because probably didn't really follow him a whole lot there when he went into junior and up north. But I mean, we played in a 3-on-3 tournament in Lucknow a few years back, and I mean, he is a third defenseman out there. It's just one of those guys, like Nate would do it every once in a while. If you have a bit of pressure, just put it back to him, and he makes as clean of a pass as anybody else on the ice. So it really complements and makes the game plan a lot better for you and a lot harder against you.
Oh, that's great. That's a great testament to the position, and obviously, being that important factor. He's like having a third defenseman out there, like you guys said. One of the last questions I want to ask you guys is about this league in general. If you could if you had a chance to sell somebody on the idea of joining this league and being a part of it, what would you say? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'd say really, I don't know if there's some kind of stigma or like, even for me personally, when I was coming out of junior, I probably took the wrong course and maybe just overstayed like in junior, thinking, there wasn't much to do beyond that, right? Like I still had tried to go down to the States and nothing amounted to that. But like I kind of didn't even really think of going to senior because I had this opinion of what the league was like. And when I finally came back, I was down in Fayetteville, came back and went out with the Lancers. It was just so fun. And I mean, the competitiveness, and it's only gotten better each year and it continues to get better. It's like you can't replicate this type of hockey anywhere beyond junior. Like if you're going to go to rec league, you're not going to get this. And the guys that you enjoyed hanging out with in junior are the same type of guys, if not the same guys that are playing in senior hockey that you get to travel with. And for right out of junior hockey, you got what? You probably have like at least 5 to 10 years before you're going to settle down or look at that for a family standard. So like take advantage of your time. And I mean, 11 years later, you still might be playing in the league.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, Bert. And if there's guys that are thinking about it, I would say do it. If you're concerned about, the physicality, I don't think that's something to be concerned about. Honestly, I think everyone's pretty respectful. I'd say throw a cage on. I know it's a silly plug, but if you're worried, throw a cage on and have at her, because you don't know how many years you have left playing the game, and you might as well take advantage of it while you can.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's great. I mean, I can appreciate how you guys speak of the league. And like I say, I think the point of this podcast is just so that people understand this league and understand the players of the league and just how amazing a league this is. So thanks for you guys to saying that. Brad, I wanted to talk to you about this Revolution Hockey Series. You want to talk about that real quick for us?
Yeah, I can touch on it. It's so it's not a COVID project. I don't know. Maybe people think that I just threw it out there, but it's actually so the story is kind of like it's over 10 years in the making. Kind of. I revamped it 2 years ago and got really heavily into the writing aspect of it. And then just for the last month and a bit, I've been working with a publishing company, and like everything's progressed really well, and it's almost surreal. It's like hard to even fathom a little bit that it's at this process. And I mean, so it's I got my first novel is called Making the Cut, and the whole series concept is kind of just what I want to continue on with that evolution of that story. So right now, that group that I have on Facebook, I just wanted to kind of introduce and almost do a little bit of marketing ahead of time and kind of get the word out a little bit that this project is going to be released maybe in August or September for when the book will be out to the public.
Cool, man. Well, if there's anything I can do to help you out with that, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Andrew.
But so last question before I let you guys go. You guys are family people. I mean, family oriented. The question I guess I got is the dedication that is required in this league to be successful. How would you say how important would you say that is?
Yeah, the family side of things, I can't obviously thank my wife enough for letting me take off Fridays and Saturdays and play a game on the weekends when she's at home with my daughter, and my parents help out a lot with that too, right? So some nights they'll take my daughter so my wife and I can make the trip together. So it's much appreciated.
Yeah, to touch on that with the home life, it's definitely, we almost have a working agreement through the regular season where I won't be in any 2-game weekends, that's for sure. But we've really had our, like, I wouldn't say battles and stuff, but like butted heads over certain things, and but she's 100% supportive, and come playoffs, like, that's such obviously a big time where you want to commit, and that's what you're playing for. So it's been really good. And then, like Nate mentioned, parents and friends, and with 2 young boys that are diehard hockey kids, there's nothing greater than actually being able to go out there and play in front of them, see them, and through the glass. And I mean, it's a special moment that I guess when I first started, I never really anticipated being able to have, but I'm definitely glad that I've lasted this long to be a star in their eyes, at least.
No, absolutely. You know what, guys? That's perfect. I couldn't have put a better way to end this. You guys were just fantastic, and I really do appreciate you guys both coming on. We've been speaking this episode of the podcast with number 54, Nathan Ansell, and number 51, Brad Burton of the Clinton Radars. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it all.
Yes, very good work.
Okay, folks, once again, we want to thank our guests on today's episode of the podcast, Brad Burton and Nathan Ansell from the Clinton Radars. It was an absolute joy having them on. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, number 10. For our next episode, it's going to be coming up this upcoming Friday, and it's going to feature your league-leading scorer from this past season, from the Ripley Wolves. He was the captain of the team, number 16, Garrett Mears. He's our next guest on the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast, episode number 11. So we look forward to that on Friday. Once again, we want to thank Brad Burton and Nathan Ansell for stopping by. We want to thank Mitch Scott from the starting lineup, uniform and apparel. And we want to thank you, the viewer, for continuing to watch and supporting this great endeavor, the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. I'm Andrew Rogers, the host, saying so long till next time. Take care.